All Valley Rooter, Jared LaBarba, friend of the show, childhood friend, Never Again Studios official plumber. 24-hour emergency services. 610-762-1656. That's 610-762-1656. They charge by the job, not by the hour, and they are 100% fully insured. They have free estimates. They also do installation and repair. They have a list of things. I can't go over them all on here, but you can find them at allvalleyrouter.net. All of Jared's services are on there. It's a beautiful website. You can contact him through that website. You can find out how to do, emergency services. Where should I call? Who should I contact? You can get all that there at allvalleyrouter.net. Free estimates, fully insured. Jared LaBarba. Check him out. Banco Beverage. Proudly serving the Lehigh Valley for over 80 years. It's 80 years. Say it with me. 80 years. It's a long time. Over 30 plus breweries distributed, including Miller, Yuengling, Pabst, Guinness, Heineken, plus a generous variety of imported and specialty brands. They are located at Crackersport Road in Allentown, PA. Can't get any more local than that, Lehigh Valley. Banco Beverage is locally owned, operated since 1933. They have an exceptional team of staff dedicated to making their customers happy. If you're interested in having Banco be your purveyor for whatever bar or establishment you own, you can go to www.bancobeverage.com. I have the information in the ads as well, and I want to thank Banco for coming on and being a sponsor. Myself and Tony are working on some projects, and we are going to be bringing some really cool content, as well as Banco is going to be providing for a lot of the things that we do event-wise. So thank you, Banco, again. Thank you, Tony, and check out Banco Beverage. Giacomo's Italian Market. What an awesome relationship that has blossomed between Never Again Studio and Giacomo's Italian Market. We've been working with them with Studio Kitchen. We've been doing their Italian sausage and going to pop-ups with them. I love Sal. I love all the guys over there. It's always awesome collaborating. And you should go check them out. They got specialty Italian items. They're famous for the cheesesteak, the sausage. I can't even list everything because everything over there on that menu is fantastic. It's a home run. They are in Easton, PA, 700 Cattell Street. That's 700 Cattell Street in Easton, PA. They are over by College Hill. It's a dope area to check out. You need to go there. They got plenty of inside seating. They got all kinds of specialty Italian things off to the side, a pasta, vodka sauce. I usually just go there because I'm not making it as good as Sal. So I pick up my vodka sauce and, I say, what's up? We got some oils and all kinds of different things. But I can't say nothing but positive things over at Giacomo's. If you know them, you know them. If you don't know them, you're crazy and you need to get over there. That's 700 Cattell Street in Easton. That's Giacomo's Italian Market. Tell Sal what's up. The Curious Plantaholic, located in Nazareth and Clinton, New Jersey. The Nazareth location was opened first, and I met Jenny. We immediately hit it off. I knew we would start working on projects. She is the energy and the breath of fresh air that Nazareth needs. I started buying plants off of her, went down a rabbit hole. Now I got a bunch of plants I got to take care of. I'm trying my hardest. People are helping me. What an awesome shop for plants, retail. The energy in there is amazing. The employees in there are amazing. It's a plant and supply store focused on connecting with local communities, and boy, do they do a fantastic job at that. I can't say enough about these guys. You need to go to their locations and check them out, but they also have plants for sale online. It's thecuriousplantaholic.com, and right now they have two locations, which is Nazareth, and the other one is Clinton, New Jersey. Please check them out, and you can get more information at curiousplantaholic.com. I'm going to be working with Jenny on some other projects as well, so you will see us kind of creating a vibe and some things going on in Nazareth. We're really going to help kind of revitalize and get some things going on in Nazareth. So if you want to, please check out the Curious Plantaholics in Nazareth. Support local, support us. They support the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on as a sponsor.
We are live. We're not live. But what up? It's Big Uncle Zach down here with Mike Fauerbach.
What's up, doggy?
Boom,
What's up,
the
doggy?
switcher is working.
Working the switchies.
We got whiskey and gingers going, and this is this the exact official last podcast here in the studio?
I have one more Friday.
Oh, we got one more Friday. Okay, so then that's pretty much it. So second to last podcast in the studio.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it? We were already talking about it before, obviously, we started recording, but
it's
yeah,
time to
it's
go.
kind of crazy. Yeah.
I mean, it's bittersweet. If I wouldn't have had a little kick in the ass and the landlord was like, "Hey, a bakery wants to go in,"
Yeah.
and we want the bottom. So I was just kind of like, it's really annoying when someone's upstairs. I'm very grateful that there hasn't been a lot of people upstairs. But it's been a minute since I've been wanting to get out of here. It's hard to grow any further than staying down here. But I mean, this whole thing was built from here. I mean, this is where the Tiger King clips from,
Yeah.
doggy.
That's totally true. That was crazy. Dude, yeah, I still can't believe we made it onto Tiger King. That was kind of wild when it came up. I think, was I watching that at home and it came through and I was like...
JM called me.
And I was like, what the... Like, I think I saw it and like, I was like, wait, what? Was that the podcast? Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, holy shit.
It was weird.
Yeah, and everybody that has ever seen this or sees my podcast, they always, every time I do one and we post it up, people always want to, let me come through to your studio. I'm like, it's not my studio. Like, you know what I mean? So I always have to explain it to them and everything like that. They're like, damn, that shit is sick. And it's always something I've always wanted. I mean, I had a podcast, the Finishers podcast, and I think I started that. You were already doing the podcast.
We were...
Yeah.
And I will confidently say this now because everybody starts a podcast and they don't keep doing it. When I started podcasting out of my apartment, the only other serious group of guys doing a podcast that wanted to be on the same level as a Joe Rogan, because there wasn't a lot of those podcasts out then at that time.
Yeah, true.
So there wasn't really anyone doing it super high level. And then when you guys came in, I met you guys through Dan because we did a cryo episode with Dan. And because of that episode, we met you guys. And you guys needed a space because it wasn't even video. You guys were getting Eddie Bravo via phone.
Calling in, yeah.
Yeah, and I think you guys gave me $50.
Yeah.
And I was editing something in the back because the original space was dope because there was a window.
Yeah, I remember
because
that place.
Because it was a hallway, but then they built it into a thing. So it was almost looked like a recording studio. But at that time, and it's not even in my opinion, there was only two people doing podcasting seriously to go in a direction to make money or to grow a brand, and it was the two of us.
Yeah.
It was what you guys were doing in Dan's basement and what we were doing at that studio. And then when we combined is, in my opinion, when that was my favorite thing to do because you already were podcasting.
Yeah.
I was still having to tell people what podcasts were.
Yeah.
It was still telling guests what it was going to be. You had to coach people about an interview. Now
Yeah, I
people
know.
come on and they try and act differently than they are.
Yeah, I know.
Which is why I'm moving forward.
That is true. They're try to put on a total different front when they're on the podcast. But yeah, so what happened was back in the day, I remember we were doing it at Ross's too for a while, Dan's basement. We did a couple on the road. What's his name? I think he was actually on your podcast, Toad. We used to call him Toad. His name's actually Andrew Tomasino. And he was Dan's brother's friend. Dan's brother, Mikey, it was his friend. And Toad ran the podcast, I think, first. And then eventually Ross took it over. So that was pretty cool. Toad, I think might have been Toad's idea, to be honest with you. He might have been like, you should do a podcast or something. I was like, that was my Toad impression. But I was like, he was
really
on your
good.
podcast, wasn't he?
I don't remember.
I think he was. Maybe he was on something. I forget. But anyways, he started doing it, and I think he just had a little recorder thing he would bring.
Yeah.
And set it up, and we would just record it like that. So it was pretty cool. And then eventually Ross took it up a notch because he had one of these
I just
things.
remember Ross would Ross was so far ahead of everyone. It was so hard to get Jesse knew audio, but when we got into video, There were so many different people I was just trying to work with, and it was just a nightmare.
Yeah.
A nightmare. Because then it was like, I remember a couple of guys came on and like they brought their own mics, and I was like, well, I don't need a fifth host. We didn't even know what we were doing, but I just knew everyone was stepping all over each other. I remember when Carmelo came in, it was like Carmelo, and he brought Mickey because Mickey wasn't in the UFC yet, and he wanted him to get used to doing media. So he was trying to get him to do as many podcasts as he can. But it was like that entire team came on, and I remember asking Jesse, I'm like, can we run 11 mics?
Oh my God. That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane. He actually, Mickey Gall actually did our podcast too.
Yeah.
Mickey and Chris Cortalo did it.
Yep, it was
one
Chris
night, yeah.
Cortalo, another, I say this because that's how he kind of carried himself. It was like a good looking guy who always had like his hair done, but he was like, like when GSP and
Oh, yeah, that's,
what's his face, the other dude from Canada,
Yep.
Rory McDonald, like carried
yeah.
themselves all like
This
swaggy.
is,
I think he's still fighting.
no, Ronnie Levine.
Yes.
Yeah, Ronnie.
Yeah. Is he still doing stuff?
He did do an MMA fight.
Yeah.
Lately, I don't know what he's been up to be honest. I'd have to look him up.
But I mean, I haven't seen any of those guys since they came on. I mean, the show was audio back then.
Yeah, Ronnie's a good kid too. He always had a lot of potential and just really wanting to learn.
Yeah, it was Ronnie,
yeah.
those two, Carmelo, and then I think they just brought two friends.
Randos, yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody's got like your rando guy on
Yeah,
the
we're like,
team,
oh, we'll mic them up.
Yeah, mic up these two rando guys too.
Yeah.
That are just kind of chilling in the back. But we have
They're going to breathe into the mic the entire time.
or like one time we did a conspiracy podcast where we had Mike Ortiz and might have been like Padilla or somebody. Like we had a bunch of guys come over and we're like, or might have been Gabe, and we're like, we're doing the podcast. And it was just like same thing. Like Ross set up 6 mics, and it was just us screaming over each other the whole time about.
That's what you do in the beginning,
aliens
and then if
and,
you
like-
start drinking, it's 10 times worse.
Exactly. Yeah, you can have one drink; it's not too bad. But if you start going like insane with it,
We
it starts
we
getting,
we
like,
created
wild,
a separate show. I mean, there were so many different shows that we did here. It was this show, and then the second show I created with my buddy Josh and Corey was JCE, and it was our sports show. And then I started rotating people onto that. And then after that, what the hell else did we do? We did I think it was like then after we did that is when we started producing your shows, which was like Now We Go, and then Now We Go went, and then we went to Zach's Corner, because Zach's Corner developed out of Now We Go, because you just started rocking stuff solo. And then I remember I did Therapeutic Dolphins with my friend Kara, and then we did then we started getting, that show was so much fun. I just beat her up the whole time, and she's just like one of those friends who just like, I can lay into her as hard as I can, and she just thinks it's funny. And she has this terrible laugh. I was talking to her today, and I'm like, how cool is it that we got to do that? And then the other one was we started doing Off the Rails, because we just would get fucked up. And then I'd be like, all right, if we're going to get fucked up, because guests would come on, and they'd be like, oh, let's come back on. And I'd be like, well, come back on, and we'll get drunk. And then that's how Off the Rails started. So you had another lane where it's like Protect Our Parks and that shit where...
Well, you got a bunch of different things. Like you can't always box yourself into one thing.
You also like from my standpoint of like editing and producing and running the show and doing all of this, I've had to throw shows out because of people were fucked up.
Yeah.
Hey man, I shouldn't have said any of that.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, you have
we've-
a career.
Yeah, I
don't.
I put out anything that I've said. I've never held back one podcast of mine. So that thankfully that's just because I think I'm smart in the fact that when I know I'm about to come on and do the podcast, like I choose my words carefully. Like not that I haven't been flagged on YouTube for threatening the president or something like that, or saying something like that's what it accused me of. So I just deleted it. But like,
Yeah, I didn't realize I had flags.
Yeah.
And then the other day,
I've gotten some flags.
I saw it, and it was all from Now We Go.
Yeah.
Like it was anything I'm flagged from is from that show. But
yeah, well, I mean, sometimes you got to get flagged. It
was a different time then, man. We were angry.
Yeah, I was definitely, oh my God, bro. During COVID times, I don't even like to think about it because of just all the things that we went through, just, shutting your business down. And like, it's just funny though, all that stuff that went down, like people, I would love to go back because there were people that were like sending me like, messages and saying what you're doing is wrong. You
crazy.
can't open your school and everything like that. And it was wild. I would love to call those people back and be like, hey, do you remember when you said this? What were you thinking?
You were always posting stuff from the beginning, like, hey, this isn't right.
Yeah.
And I always still enjoy when you still do that, because you're like, hey, remember, I love when people like post that stuff and they're like, hey, remember 2 years ago when they forced us to wear masks and like had to wait outside of grocery stores?
Makes no sense.
Yeah.
Sometimes because everybody just wants to forget about it, and I'll have to remind people that I'll be like, hey, remember when we used to eat outside but it was actually inside and you guys were cool with that?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, like when there was and I remember like yelling, like, this doesn't make sense that, like, when they started like saying like, oh, you can eat out, but it's in a shed outside. And I remember saying to my mom, like, that doesn't make sense. You're outside going back inside.
What are we talking about?
And then my mom's like, yeah, I just don't know. And I'm like, I fucking do. It doesn't matter.
I do. It doesn't matter. Yeah. And like people, how about people spraying their groceries down with you know what I mean? Like
I felt bad because I was giving my parents shit the whole time, but I remember that. She's like, look, your brother sprayed our groceries and we can't open them for 48 hours. I'm like, I'm drinking out of a shoe down here with Tim. I'm fine.
Yeah, I know.
We're doing shoeies.
Eddie Bravo used to say that too, and it was a smart thing. What he said is, it's not a smart thing, but I mean, it makes sense when you think about it. Like, we were all still doing jujitsu. So like, and people definitely got sick, and I was sick at one point. So I mean, did I have it? I don't know. I didn't do any of the tests. So I mean, I feel like if people would have been like, if it would have been as bad as they were saying it was, like people we known would have died. You know what I mean? People we've known would have been like in jiu-jitsu and then just dropped dead. And that didn't happen, obviously. Were there older people? Like, sure. I mean, anybody that passed away from something is terrible. You know what I mean? But were there older people more affected by it? 100%. Like, could we have went back to work, though? 100%. And I just saw Dr. Phil was taking mad shit because he was on The View. Did you see that?
He crushed them on The View.
Yeah, I know. I did. Yeah. I do see
He
those.
started his own network.
Yeah, I love seeing the, that is one thing I'll get into a YouTube hole on liberal takedowns. When like crazy like nutbag, hen house liberal, we're gonna tell this to Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil just like is like, look,
he went on
take
that.
This.
Yeah, he went on that kind of. I think he went on to promote his thing.
Yeah,
and then they get into, because what they'll do on that show, from me seeing clips, is like, they'll like push you into a corner, and then they just kind of get you to be like, yep, because you're uncomfortable about talking about it. But if it's somebody who wants to box their way out, it's usually a really good clip of somebody being like, fuck you.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody else lit them up, and I forget who it was. It was
Coleman Hughes is another guy. He's like a conservative. I guess he's not really conservative. He's like a
Norm
podcast
Macdonald went on there.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Yeah, Norm Macdonald was the most classic though.
Yeah.
When he's talking about, I posted that one up too. And they're like, well, who do you think's going to win the presidency? He's like, well, if the left doesn't steal it again, then I don't know.
Yeah.
He really creamed them though. He was talking about, that was the old one when he's talking about Bill Clinton. Is that the one you saw? When he was talking about Bill Clinton was a murderer.
Yeah. Well, the Clintons will murder you.
Yeah, exactly. And they don't know what to say.
Like,
Norm, you're supposed to be funny.
Yeah. They kept saying that. Like, when are you going to be funny?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. That just
fuck that show.
View,
how's that show still on?
I mean, because the only reason it's still on is because the Democrat National Party is probably paying to have it still on TV.
Yeah.
It's just like a propaganda wing for, the left, really. I mean, those people on there, they say the most insane things. There was a clip going around the other week.
Kelly Osbourne was so good.
I don't even remember her being on. I just know of what the people look like that are on it now. But the one woman was Whoopi Goldberg. First of all, she was on for a while, and then remember she said some crazy stuff about Jews.
Yeah.
And they had to take her off.
It was the same thing with Kelly Osbourne. Kelly Osbourne
They brought
was
her back
on,
in, yeah.
It was her. It was Kelly Osbourne and Rosie Perez, and somebody else was on that week. And
Rosie Perez.
It was like, I still love her from White Man Can't Jump.
Too.
That shower
She's the
scene,
best.
boy. Osborne's on, and she's like on her soapbox going off on a speech and talking all this shit on Donald Trump. And she says, if Donald Trump puts up that wall and all these illegal immigrants can't come into this country, she goes, who's going to clean our toilets?
Oh, I remember
and
that,
Rosie Perez just goes like, and was like, what did you just say? And she's like, no, I just meant like they have jobs. And
Yeah,
then
oh my God.
next week, Kelly Osbourne was not on the
She
View.
was gone?
Gone.
Oh, I don't even remember that. But
Call
yeah,
her fucking Nicolas Cage. She was gone in 60 seconds,
yeah.
brother.
Oh my God, that's when the left eats itself. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's
she's
so
so
much
left. She outlefted it. The left.
She's crazy. That whole family sucks. She was like all her plastic surgery.
Yeah, I
and-
mean, dude, anyone on the View. I mean, come on, bro. Yeah, it's ridiculous. There's a bunch of shows like that, but I really like. I've been really getting into Dr. Phil lately.
Dude, he's crushing it. He was
there's some
great
good
on
Dr.
Rogan,
Phil
and then
clips,
he's like the Nelk Boys. They're all right at interviewing. They're younger, and like their brand is that. Like they don't need to be doing a podcast,
Yeah.
but they do all right. It's funny when that Bob Meary guy comes on because it's just a shit show. But he was all right on that. Like they kind of had some decent questions for him. Like
I don't even know
They're just
what-
like a bunch of kids who don't have to worry about anything because they're rich. So like
for
their
what?
questions.
They're rich from YouTube videos or something.
It started on YouTube, and then YouTube kept like not monetizing them because of like the problems that like we ran into of just like speech stuff. And there's a guy, Steve will do it on there, who used to chug beers all the time, and because he's pro Donald Trump, they've actually like froze his channel, and he was making millions off of it.
Now, isn't that insane?
Yeah, you can't like. There's a lot of stuff that like what we said is why we get flagged. This
Yeah.
will probably get pushed down because we brought up anything, but
I said Jews, so
Yeah.
that's probably.
so what they ended up doing was they made merch, and they made high quality merch, and they did it like where they're like, hey, this is a one-off and we're only making this, and they built an apparel brand. And I think they like the first shirt they dropped, they made like a couple $1 million in like seconds.
What?
And then so they just knew that they could lean on the so they weren't monetizing off of YouTube because YouTube kept flagging them and everything. So they built everything off of like meetups and doing merch, and then they just made so much money off of it. They just kept expanding out on it, and then they
Wow.
ended up making the Happy Dad seltzer, and now they're partnered with the UFC because the UFC's Dana's son was like, hey, check this guy Kyle out. He's like pretty good at business, and they're doing this cool shit. And then Dana was like, you have...
I'm into cool shit.
Yeah, Dana's like, you have the pulse of a generation. Come on over here to UFC, and that's why you see like Sugar Sean's one of their sponsored fighters, and
Right,
they'll
okay,
throw
yeah.
seltzers out to the Shoey guy. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but it's cool. It's cool that they started something like we like. You know what I mean? Like we just started this. I mean,
Yeah.
we get cool things out of it. It hasn't
Yeah.
gone on that level, but
Right, yeah.
it's just a couple of kids starting some shit because they don't want to work.
Yeah, it helps me out, and I'm just, like you said, like I just started the podcast in general just to speak to the students at first.
Yeah.
like I was like, all right, no one's gonna listen to this. Like I'm
Yeah,
not
I
thinking,
remember
like,
that when you started Zach's Corner.
Yeah, I was like, I'm just gonna have to start talking, and I plan on, for the future. Like I've been mad inconsistent, but this is, with you not doing it as much anymore and kind of transitioning to another, phase, like with the cooking. And
It's
all that
hard to
stuff,
fit
yeah.
it in.
Yeah, it is, but like
long
I think,
format.
I think I have an idea of how I'm going to do it. So I think I'm going to set up some cameras and stuff at the gym, in the middle room, the massage room or whatever it's called, and then I'm going to have like a 2-chair setup with one camera and just 2 mics, just so like someone's in town or whatever, I could bring them in and be like, okay, like just give me 20 minutes. Like instead of, because like really we're just, if you think about it, pro tip, most of the things, like now if you see on Instagram, what do I get locked in on? Reels. That's
Yeah.
what I'll get locked in. And if Instagram algorithm is working that night and I'm getting Norm Macdonald clips, I'm getting Mike Tyson, I'm getting UFC, I'm getting rap like freestyles, like I'm getting chicks with big butts, I'm getting like, that's my whole feed,
Yeah.
like just constantly, and I'm trying to be like, and you'll get locked into that shit and you'll just sit there.
Hours.
Yeah.
I'll do it 2 hours straight and just be like, where am I? I'll like get up and my vision's bad.
Yeah.
But you're crushing with reels.
Yeah.
Like I saw a
We
bunch
try to
of
do that, yeah.
like I saw like the Finisher North stuff coming out, and that Ted Park design's fucking awesome. Both those that he put out, I was like, he just started posting again, and I was just like, oh, like I love everything that dude does.
Yeah.
And he crushes everything that he touches.
Every
when
single
he
thing.
did the North stuff, I was like, oh, that's so fucking cool with the mountain and the
Yeah,
bear.
dude, it's
and then I
sick.
saw like he showed the DMs, and then I was like, oh, he just home run that
Dude,
thing.
yeah. First of all, Ted Park don't miss, bro.
He don't.
He does not.
He
There's
don't
nothing
miss.
that I've never seen him do something and be like, oh, I don't know about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He really doesn't. Like, what's insane is I met that guy. I don't even know. Originally, he worked with a brand, Hypnotic.
Yeah.
It's not around anymore. And then he started. I still think he works with Fuji. And we met him through just jiu-jitsu and stuff. And they ended up sponsoring Grace. And we went down to Grace was in shout out to Grace Gundrum, and she was in a tournament in the On It Invitational, and in Texas. And that was like before it was cool. Like, how everyone's going to Texas now? I was going to
Yeah,
Texas.
you guys were going. You guys went and visited the On It lab.
Yeah, I went to Texas probably like 4 or 5 times before like it got really popular to where it's like now I get down there and like, you even know about Texas? Like I've been down here before you people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's just like people you know and homeless.
Yeah, exactly. But Austin's pretty crazy. It's a lot of fun. I do love Austin.
We want to plan a trip.
Yeah, dude, you definitely should, man. I've been up to Austin a whole bunch.
It's the next road trip
Yeah.
I think we're gonna do. We're gonna plan it around going to
so
see
much,
Kill Tony.
so much food. Yeah, and I want to go see that
Yeah.
too. There's so many.
How crazy is it that show's that big now? Had like David Tell and David Spade on.
Dude, they had Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, that was funny.
Sitting there, and they were like calling him the N-word and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
That Cam Patterson comes out.
Yeah,
He's
that
like,
guy's
my
the man.
grandmother
Cam-
fucking hates you. And
Yeah,
he's like, no,
Cam
she don't.
Patterson
And he's
is
like, yeah,
hilarious.
she does.
That guy's hilarious, dude.
It's
I
cool
love that
watching
guy.
comics be built on
Yeah,
that show.
I like when they bring in like crazy ass comics like that's and they really rip on each other.
Yeah, like
which
the
is
good
fun, yeah.
podcast ones, like
Yeah.
Mark Normand always rips on everybody,
yeah,
Dan
yeah.
Soder.
Yep.
So usually when like there's a good comedian on Rogan, and it's just like New York comics or podcast comics that'll fucking tear into you.
Yeah. What happened to Darnell Williams? Or remember Ashley Larry? Did he like walk off a Kill Tony set or something like that? Someone was trying to tell me.
He got
They
into
were
it-
making fun of him really bad.
He got into it with somebody over. He got into it with a comedian who was ripping on Dave Chappelle. That was the last thing I saw with him.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
hope he got up and walked.
We
off.
actually
He's probably
met.
drunk.
I should post those pictures up again for fun. But we actually met Tony Hinchcliffe when
You guys like met him backstage. You like sent me pictures of like you hanging out with Tony
choking out.
Hinchcliffe
Dude,
and Rogan.
Just like 5 pictures of like Renee
Yeah.
choking out Tony Hinchcliffe, and he's like, I really would. Then he was telling us he was
What
like,
was that
man,
for? Eddie's thing?
no, that was the ADCC,
All right.
last ADCC. Like, I just acted like I was working for, which I kind of was, but I just acted like I was working for Flow Grappling. But the job that I do for Flow Grappling is totally remote, so I don't need to be there at all. I just walked in with a laptop, and they're like, look like I mean business,
Yeah.
and they're like, yeah,
They're
go
like,
ahead.
who's that? He's
Yeah.
like, he creates the thumbnails.
They're like, he's the guy who does. No, I don't even create the thumbnails. I push those off to Sean because I
Sean.
can't do that shit.
how crazy is it?
Yeah, he's
from-
another guy, man.
He's
he
another
just
one.
murders it, bro.
It's
He
crazy.
don't fucking miss.
When Local Stone, I've been trying to get on here, and like me and Local Stone like broke down our relationship of like when we started food, and it's very similar to this conversation where like you look through how long me and you have been doing this, which I have been in this basement. I think this is year 6, so we've probably been working on all these projects with all these different people for probably 4 years
Yeah, at
straight.
least.
So it's like when you first talked about a Sean, like he was like had nothing and
Yeah.
like was just trying so hard to like become who he is right now.
Yeah.
And when I see him posting like that bougie shit in those hotels,
Yeah, I know,
I'm like,
yeah.
good for fucking
guy's
you,
chilling.
man. I'm like no one knew who he was. And then you brought him into the fucking jiu-jitsu game. And then this is my opinion only, and I know a lot of jiu-jitsu guys listen to this shit, but like everything is now copy paste what the fuck you've been
Yeah.
doing with a Sean, and then now I just see these other schools, and like it's nothing against them, it's because he has. I feel like you two have built like a footprint
Yeah.
of like what it's supposed to be, and you need people to do that. But it's like to watch a Sean just completely crush anything he's touching, and like seeing people's seminars, and like he's now being used essentially like. And I just remember you're like, yo, I got this guy from Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
His name's a Sean. He's
Yeah.
like, I think we can get him to do thumbnails for Now We Go.
Yeah, I know.
It's
You
cool,
need
man.
people like me. You
It's
know what I
cool.
mean? No, I'm just kidding. That was a Scarface thing, but yeah, dude, like so some of the guys, like, I've always believed in him, and I can just tell him not even training jiu-jitsu, he knows. Like, he just gets the feeling
Yeah.
of what, like, looks good. He does it really fast.
Yeah. I
And-
tell everybody, I'm
yeah.
like, I got this guy. This is, I can give you his info. His big thing is it'll be done immediately.
Yeah,
It's immediately. I've already
yeah.
texted you and been like, hey, he finished that
Yeah.
thumbnail. We can post the episode now.
Yeah. I know, and you know what? He's waiting on me most of the time. Like, even right now, I have a new scheme I'm working on. So, hear me out on this one. So, I'm going to, this weekend, I know this will come out later, but I have a seminar at Boston University. So, I'm really excited about that because shout out to Will. Shout out to Will McGlone for getting me to Boston University. So I knew some guys that went to Boston before, and I always knew that they had a jiu-jitsu club there, so I followed it. And then when Will started going there, he was like, man, I'll bring you out for a seminar or whatever. I forget how we talked about it. But then now that it's going down this weekend, it's pretty awesome. I'm very excited to do that. And, Boston, like, BU is a pretty big college. Like,
Yeah.
that's no joke, dude. Like, it's a good school. So, and I've been working with a lot of colleges around here too. So, not to give too much away, but listen, hopefully I don't get there before you, but if in your area, if you're a dojo, I'd be looking into the local high schools and colleges. Now, high schools I've only ever gone to, set up a table or whatever, but colleges, though, breaking in there is really important because, there's a lot of college kids. They don't have much to do. A lot of times their parents have money, so they could probably sign them up for the gym. And if they don't have money, the college will probably work out some way to have a club where the kids can still train somehow for free for them, but the college pays you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to BU, and they already have a jiu-jitsu club there that Will teaches at. So he's one of our purple belts, and he teaches, the classes there. And they beat Harvard. They beat a bunch of other really good schools. And
So
like
there's
jiu-jitsu
colleges doing jiu-jitsu
yeah,
competitions
they're having.
now?
They're not even.
Is this
they're-
new?
No, but it was very, like, no one knew about it.
Yeah.
But I think they did have, like, meetups basically, and they compete against each other. So I'm going to ask them more about it. From the looks at it, there'd be like 5 or 6 different schools, and it looks like they have teams, and they went against each other. They beat Harvard. They beat a bunch of other colleges. So, and jiu-jitsu is such a thing where it's really, obviously you can get injured. We can get injured doing any kind of sport, but it's something that you can take on after college. You can continually do it. And while you're at college, it's a great workout besides just going to the like local or to the college gym where there's football players and wrestlers and all these weightlifters there, when you're like might be intimidated to be just a regular kid at school, but you want to work out, you want to do something. What am I going to do? I'm not good enough to be on the college like team, even though we are getting some of the wrestlers from ESU now, which is pretty dope, that are training up at Finishers North.
I like that it's growing like that.
Yeah. Well, it's like, it's weird. Like, so even tonight at Bethlehem, we had a kid, he came in, he wrestled for Wisconsin, I think. And, he's a 3-time All-American and, national championship finalist, I think. And he wrestled for Parkland. And so he came in because he knew one of the other guys. So like, we're a 3-time All-American. Like, that is no joke, bro. You know what I mean? So like, this guy is like, look, okay, so the Bethlehem school is working, we're working with Lehigh. So Greg, old man Greg the Hammer, Greg Henry, he's a professor at Lehigh. So he's got to work in the students, getting the club going. So we got Lehigh, we got ESU. My boy Kelvin up there is one kid that I met that he wrestles for ESU, and he's working on the club there with the guys from East Stroudsburg University. And then now I'm going to Boston. Will's teaching out there. So I'm like going to start infecting the colleges. So now I have a Sean as my, I guess you would say he's my right-hand man, because I was like telling him, like, I might have to hire like a secretary if I really want to start like pushing this kind of stuff out, because I feel like I have a really good, in with colleges.
Yeah.
Like Rutgers University, Gary Toning used to teach there and stuff. So I'm going to try to just get that route. Like, let me go the school route and see, what I can do. Maybe teaching seminars, maybe like helping them with whatever. And it's great for kids to just blow off steam. Like, fuck it, I'll just go to jiu-jitsu for 2 hours and then I'll go back and study again. You know what I mean? And the kids are really getting into it. So We never had that before. You know, now we're training the police and everything like that. I don't know where the hell I was even going with that, but just having that other route. Oh, Sean, I'm just going to have him like spamming every single college and he'll get it done. He's waiting on me to get him.
He'll do that 10 times faster than fucking using anybody else.
He's waiting on me to give him like packages and how much we're going to charge and stuff. So I'm always scheming and working on stuff, bro.
You have to be. I mean, I'm already planning stuff I'm going to be doing over there because everyone always asks like, well, what are you going to do with the podcast? What are you going to do with the podcast? And I'm like, just because I'm leaving the studio doesn't mean the show's over. I'm definitely taking a break. I've been doing this since I was 28 years old. I'm 44. I started Never Again when I was 28 years old. I have not stopped doing this at all. And it's like, I know that like I'm not going to stop doing it because I've tried to stop. This is my creative outlet. But what I do need to do is like get the restaurant open, start making money, figure, you know, I'm going to have employees, but like once it's set up, like I'm already thinking in my head, I'm like, oh, I can do this. I can do that. Like, fucks, that's delicious. Oh, I can make videos for fucking this and that. And I'm not even giving too much away because I have enough people taking my shit.
Yeah, that's
This
true.
town's got 19 coffee shops in it. Where did that idea come from? Play more bagels in town, please. Yeah. So like, you know, there's just shit I'm going to do. It needs to evolve. It cannot stay here. If Finishers stayed in Jimmy John's, it would not be where the fuck it is today.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's time to grow and it's time to get in. I want a new fucking canvas and I'm just going to fucking put a lot of shit on pause, start making some fucking money. I'm moving. I haven't had an apartment in fucking over 10 years because I gave up my apartment for the studio. So like, it feels cool to be, oh, wow, like this was worth something. I'm opening a restaurant. I'm getting a fucking apartment. My ride to work, 6 fucking minutes, and I'm not riding to work. I'm riding to my fucking business.
Yep.
I own with 2 of my best friends. Like, to me, it was worth it all, minus some people dying that, like, you know, you don't have control over that, but you got to get past it, and you got to set goals, and you got to move forward, and no matter how much it sucks, hanging out and fucking wishing they were still alive, which isn't going to change. They don't want you to be that way, and you got to fucking suck it up and move forward. And when you do that and get past all that bullshit, you can literally do whatever the fuck you want. I've been down here for 6 fucking years, grinding the fuck out, nonstop, not doing anything but being down here. And the payoff is I'm going to own a fucking restaurant. And that's the start of it, because now it's a real business.
Yeah.
Let's get into 2 fucking businesses. Let's get into fucking buying buildings. Let's get into fucking all the shit we've been talking about for the last 4 years. I see you opening up another school, me opening a restaurant. And I'm like, at least we're doing it, not just sitting around talking about it.
Trying. I'm gonna keep swinging, like, guys.
You have to.
I talked to my dad today.
What else are we gonna do?
Exactly. There's nothing. What are we gonna do? Quit? I don't have that option. But also too, like, I was talking to my dad, and he was just asking me about what's going on, like, how's the new school, you know, and everything. And I'm telling him, and he just like, you know, I don't know, I could never do what you do. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, you would have had to have trained 30 years of jiu-jitsu. And he's like, no. He's like, not that. He's like, I can't, like, he's like, I always just, you know, I took the safe route and wanted the 9 to 5 and was like, I'll just do this as a job. It'll pay me enough money. I know what I got to do, but I got to put up with some shit, but it's still a great life, you know? Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, my
That's
dad
most
did
people's
that.
life.
Worked
You
in
know
a
what I mean?
factory.
Yeah, my dad did computer stuff, computer programming, you know what I mean? Did all that, went to college at Bloomsburg, the whole 9. But, like, you know, he was gone every day, 8 to 5 or whatever, 9 to 5, you know what I mean? So, and then, you know, it was like the whole typical, like, family thing. It's like, oh, we're going to take our 1 week vacation and we're going to go on to the beach or whatever.
They told us we could take off.
Yeah, and that's totally awesome, man. I love that. And I had a great life growing up. It's just that maybe it's because I'm a Gemini and I was born on the same day as Kanye West. I don't know. But I just have this thing in me that I feel like I need to keep pushing it, and I'm not happy unless I am doing it. Now, do I like to take off? Obviously. I love taking off and chilling out, and like I relish the fact that I get to wake up every day with my son.
But because of you pushing's why you get to do that.
Right, exactly. So sometimes I feel like today,
he'd be in daycare.
Yeah, exactly. He'd be in daycare. If I was working at a job where, like, most people said I should have just took the job at the county, and I could have been working, and I was talking with my dad, I could have been working at Lehigh County Juvenile Probation Department, which is like the somewhat professional job that I had before this. and before I started really going 100% into martial arts. And I worked at a construction company too. It's not even construction. It was like a concrete cutting company, fastening house. They used to call them back in the day. G&S Fasteners. My boy Sean, shout out to Sean Green, who actually is the first guy who got me into podcasting. But he got me a job when I was totally broke, out of my ass, had nothing. And he was like, "Yo, my uncle will give you a job counting nails." I'm like, I'm in, because it was like $12 an hour or whatever. I did that, and I kept training, and then I went back to school. Got a bunch of student loans that, that Jagoff Biden should cancel, even though I hate him. If he canceled it, I mean, whatever. You know what I mean? At this point,
I'll give you something.
At this point, people are like, we're going to like, I owe like whatever thousands of dollars. People are like, we're going to have to pay off everybody's. So this is where I become not in a conservative manner, where they're like, you should just pay off those loans and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, bro, they're losing $32 billion that they should have spent on homeless in California, but they lost it. They're sending billions of dollars to all these bullshit wars, and you're mad because the jerk president might actually
do something here.
That's good for people that are here. Like, I do have a job. I do own a business. If anyone should get their student loans canceled, it's me. I have a whole bunch of employees that I constantly pay. And it's not like I'm selling something, like I don't sell subwoofers or anything like that. It's not like I'm some guy who just sells, like we're actually doing something we feel like for the community.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it makes no sense to me. Like, but they don't mind. No one's going to put up a front and we give billions of dollars to all this different stuff. But then if they want to cancel like $60,000 of my student loan debt, I'm a piece of shit. But all right. So anyways, yeah, I mean, like, what are you going to do? Like, once I got into doing that, I was like, bro, I don't know if I could keep doing this, man. Like, how could I, if I worked
I've
there
said
for
that so many times at jobs.
15 years, dude, I would have been working there for 15 years. How would my life be right now?
Yeah, once somebody brought up like how long you had to work till you were retired, that like haunted me. And they'd be like, oh, so-and-so is here for 22 years. And then you're like, oh, yeah, that's right. He got cancer because he was lacquering guitars.
Yeah, or
whatever.
whatever.
Remember they told you had to sign a waiver when you got here so that if you had cancer, you couldn't sue them?
Yeah, exactly.
I'd be like, yeah, whatever. It's a job. And I remember the lady like selling it short. And then I met two people that died while I was there from cancer.
What place was that?
Martin Guitar.
Oh, Martin. Yeah, figures. I mean, dude, any of that stuff, man. I remember one time when I was working at G&S, I was cutting threaded rod. Like, I was just, and you'd have to wear these gloves and everything. And I'm just like, oh, normal day, just going to cut some rod. And I had glasses on, like I had goggles on. And this is also why I knew masks were bullshit, because I had a mask on and I would still inhale the metal
like
that I was cutting out.
Metal up every day.
And I got one in my eye really bad, and I had to go to the doctor. And I remember, like, I drove to the eye doctor, and they had to like take it out, but it scratched my eye, and I put the drops in. I couldn't see.
That's
for days.
fucking terrible.
And I was like, bro, should I be? I mean, my dad would be like, you're getting hurt all the time over at MMA or jiu-jitsu. I'd be like, yeah, I know, but at work I'm getting hurt all the time.
I got my arm caught in a conveyor belt at my first job at 16. And you know what they did? They thought I was going to sue them, so they put me on light duty, and then they laid me off, and then I got a letter in the mail that they fired me.
Wow.
But like, I look back on that and I was like, I could have sued the fuck out of them. People weren't suing people back then.
No, because now if you would have sued
if I would have been now, I would have been like, yo, what's up?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but back then, if you tried to sue someone, they'd be like, guys, knock it off.
Let's not sue each other.
Yeah. Like, we're not going to do that. But yeah, man, I would have been working at that job at the probation department for probably 15 years now.
Yeah. And that's even if your job still exists there.
Exactly, yeah. Or if they gave it to somebody else or whatever the situation is. So it's like, but
Rocco's brother's coming in. He needs a job.
Yeah.
You're out.
And honestly, I never got full time there because I just had to keep waiting till someone retired.
Yeah.
And then eventually guys were like, they're not retiring.
Yep.
The guy, I'm like, isn't that one dude like 60? And they're like, yeah, he's still working part time. And they're like, we can't put you on.
Yep.
And I was like, oh man, all right. So then like, yeah, eventually I was like, I'm not. And then actually the truth of the matter is I worked with it. So during the summer, I would take these kids to like all different places, and we would go to the Lehigh Valley Zoo. We would go to sometimes just a food bank. We'd go to this one place was the Syrian Arab community center or whatever, and we would go there and have to hand out food to poor people in Allentown. And I was supposed to teach these kids, like, yo, this is what, like, you know what I mean? They're doing community service, so I'm something. And then we also worked at the recycling center, which is kind of dangerous because, like, there's big compactors there and stuff, and I had to learn how to work that. So I thought I was working for the probation department, and here I was doing community service with kids. So all the shit jobs that they would make kids do for community service, I led the pack. So I would have to get kids that were there for, like, whatever, smoking weed or getting a fight at school or like being truant or whatever. They would do community, or they stole something, had a gun, some of them, and drugs. And then I would have to convince them to, like, we got to carry all of these logs and put them in the back of this dude's truck. Oh yeah, and this guy is a dickhead as well, and he don't like us and he don't want us to be here. So we just and he's probably gonna talk shit to us while we're working, like, you guys ain't doing it right. You know what I mean? And then I even got into it with some of the people that we'd be working for, because I would have to say to them, like, hey man, I'm trying to get these kids to do these jobs. If you talk shit to them, they're not going to do it. Then I can't do my job, and then I have to go back and explain to the POs and everything. And I would have been a probation officer, but what happened was, the one summer I worked with this one kid. Some kids would be on it all summer. I worked with him all summer, and then at the end of the summer, he was like back going to school or whatever, and then he was in a shooting. He shot somebody. I don't remember if he actually killed him or not, but I'm pretty sure he did. And I think there was like him and two other older guys. And this kid was probably like 15 or 16. This happened in Allentown. And he was with two older guys that were in their 20s. And they ran into someone's house and like ransacked it and shot like a whole family. And I was like, damn, I don't know if I could keep doing this.
Yeah.
And then it turned out, years later, they found out that they were trying to do like a hit for like a gang, to get into a gang, and they killed the wrong people. So they like literally killed a mom and a dad in front of like kids. And I was like, dude, I'm out. Like after that, like I was like getting an opportunity to go to GNS full time, work construction, and I literally chose a construction job over working at the probation department. I was like, dude, I can't. I just worked with this kid for a whole year, like 3 months, whole summer. I'm like, man, I don't know if I can keep showing up to work, and this is how it's gonna be. Like, and then at being a PO is even worse, because then you're dealing with the kids like, you're the one having to tell them like, hey man, if you don't do this, I'm locking you up. You know what I mean, or whatever. Yeah. And then like, you hear about some of these.
You could easily be blamed as the reason why they're there.
Yeah. Or a lot of times what happens too is like some of these guys get beat up or killed, or you know what I mean? Like they're working these weird hours. And even me, I was skeptical sometimes where they would be like, yo, pick this kid didn't make it into the morning to sign in, so you got to pick him up. I don't know if they do this anymore, but they would send me like, I'd be on like 6th, 7th Street, right in Center City, Allentown, and I have to pull up to someone's house, and now I'm driving a van that says Lehigh County Courthouse and have a jacket on that says probation. So like I would get out and, people didn't want to really see me there. You know what I mean? They'd be like, get me the fuck away from this
that
guy.
kid ain't coming out on time.
No, and the neighbors didn't want to see me with the kid. You know what I mean? So, or the kid didn't want me to see, you know what I mean? The kid didn't want the neighbors to see me chilling, in a PO thing, being all cool. So, I mean, it was a tough job, but that's
the jacket.
That's when I thought, I thought about that the other day. I was like, man, I wonder where that PO jacket is, just in case I want to, you know what I mean? Either do some role playing or
just rock it.
Yeah, just roll up in a probation thing and just scare everybody. You just see someone start sweating. Like, what is a PO doing here? It's kind of weird. But so that was kind of like a really tough job, man. So I didn't want to I couldn't go forward with that. So then getting into martial arts, I was like, I guess we're going to see where this is going to take me. But my dad will say that I am crazy. Like being an entrepreneur, I mean, this is kind of wild because sometimes you don't know how much money you're going to make, where your next check is coming from.
I could throw up with everything going on.
You got to work with crazy partners sometimes. Yeah. A lot of loads of different people you got to deal with that are constantly throwing a wrench into your plans. Where like every time I take a step forward, I got to take one back because guys did this, or, I get guys that are really, you know what I mean? It just turns into like a whole thing. So I'm like, yeah, it is crazy, but I also, calculate some stuff. Like I still had to work a job for a long time. I didn't just quit and had money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My parents didn't give me any money to start these businesses. Like they gave me $0. Like I did it with like nothing. You know what I mean? So, you know, obviously people have helped me along the way. Like I was just talking about, Greg bought our first wall pads. Like when I didn't have any wall pads and people were rolling through the walls, he bought the pads for the wall, like a student did. You know what I mean? And he runs the Lehigh. I mean, that's how long some of these guys have been around with me. So it's like every time I see him, sometimes I'm like, man, like I'm so concentrated a lot on wanting to get everyone good at jiu-jitsu so much and be like a really good coach, and like just for my own ego, like I want to make sure that I know that I can get people good, and that's what, you know, what marks a good school too. And I want to be respected by my peers. Who doesn't want to? And but I do want to make sure that I step back and appreciate the people that we have. And it's not just about being the best all the time. You know what I mean? It's about obviously having fun, the journey, which people's like, oh, that's just a cop out for someone who's losing. But I don't feel like I'm losing.
Yeah.
I'm winning.
I think,
you know what I mean?
I
But
think
I want to make sure that I just be appreciative is what I'm saying.
I think when you do things like, you know, like you're opening the school and it takes you out of a rhythm and a rhyme of like things that you're doing, of your coaching and all that. And I've noticed with me, like with moving and having these last couple podcasts and just packing up, you just start, that's when I feel like you're stopping, because I wouldn't stop the madness down here. It would be another year of this. Yeah. So like when you start actually leaving and going on to something new and you stop, you start remembering like all, like I remember talking to Local Stone and we were naming so many restaurants that we went to and did pop-ups, and we're like, oh, this person supported us and this person on this way. And like, I think that's when you kind of take a step back and look, because people like us, it's like, we're not stopping. Yeah. You're just constantly go. So when you open up a new school, you start, oh yeah, I had to get pads.
Yeah.
Oh, where do we get the pads from the first place? Oh, that guy got the pads.
It's pretty crazy. I started, so like, you know, for me also too, like I think a lot of guys get to the point where they have these monster egos just because, you know, whatever, shit was either gifted to them or they just think they, you know better, or they got to a certain point and they feel like they can just, you know, project their ego out to everybody. But, you know, I like doing things that check my ego. Like I retired obviously, but then I competed again, you know, just to, you know, feel what it's like, just to put myself in there. Then, you know, and I won. I was only one match. I did kind of injure myself in the match, but I won the match, which was cool. It wasn't like spectacular win, but I gutted it out. Like I had to pull old veteran move to win at the end. And then, you know, like I'll go from teaching like a class on a Wednesday night at Finishers HQ of like 35, 40 people and like 3-time All-Americans and like, you know, this is who I'm running class with. And then I'll go to Finishers North and there'll be 6 people. 4 people.
That's got to be trippy.
You know what I mean?
But also cool because it's like Finishers in Bethlehem was started how Finishers North is right now.
Exactly. Same,
that's what I think I'm excited for, is to watch it grow. Just seeing and being so close to the Bethlehem school and watching all that go down, and you know, you guys being so grateful to let me start the cooking business in your parking lot, which is now we're opening a restaurant because of that. It was just me and Gina. Gina was late because she had like shit going on with her kids, and I just remember and like people were there. They're like, "Hey, you're doing that burger thing today?" And I'm like, "Fuck, people are listening to the podcast." And they're like, "Yeah, man, they pushed you." Because I remember you and JM were just like, "Just fucking do it. We need food. Fucking do it." And then my buddy bought me a flat top, and I was out of excuses, and I was like, "Okay,
and
I guess we're doing a burger."
There were always mad guys telling me too, like, "Yo, I want to come through and do like, you know, do food out at your place." And I'm like, "Do it," and they just never do it.
Yeah.
How many different things are? It's like, yo, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get a food truck. I'm like, no, you're not. You know what I mean?
I just let people talk anymore.
When you murdered those burgers though that first time, dude, people were so fucking.
Dude, there was a line. I remember one time it was raining and there was a line.
Yeah.
And like they were just waiting. And I told the story before is that Laura didn't get one, like the first or second time. Yeah. And then when we did the pop up the third time, it was like her and Preet, and they're like, we want ours now.
Yeah,
and I remember Laura was just like, I want my burger. I didn't get my burger. And she's like, I want 2.
Yeah.
And John's not getting one. Those are for me. And then that was the start of people coming up early and being like, I'll Venmo you right now. Yeah. And then we'd be like, cool. And then Gina would write it down and it would be like Laura and Preet.
That's what I used to do.
Yeah.
I used to get mine early. It's like, I got to get mine for Kat. You know what I mean? Make sure she gets hers.
I think there was a time we sold over 200 burgers in the parking lot in the summer. Yeah. And we didn't even know what we were doing.
Yeah, just those burgers were so good. People still ask ask me about those. They're like, yo, is Mike ever coming back? I'm like, dude, he's real busy, you know? And they're like, what's he up to? I'm like, I start opening up a restaurant. They're like, oh, I knew it. That's what they say.
Yeah, because everyone always said, they're like, is this a restaurant? And I'm like, no. I don't. The burger's special to me. I mean, we're opening up a bagel shop. It's going to be about the bagel. The bagel's awesome. You know, that's a creation from mostly Gina, but myself as well. And, you know, we're branding and building a breakfast restaurant. And then I'm going to do, then Saturday nights, I'm going to do something with the burger. And I know the burger's going to end up on the menu, but it's good. To have two things like that and to be that fucking ran over in the beginning is nuts. So it's like, you know, or I'll just do it on Saturday nights and your overnight Amazon guys will have a fucking treat over there. And
or, I mean, dude, we're doing like, we watched the fights. We got to talk about the fights a little bit before we shut down,
dude. I wanted to come by. George hit me up, but I watch religiously with the four guys and you know what I mean? It's just who I have to watch with.
We had like allegedly, we may have or may not have, so Uncle Dana doesn't get on my shit list here, is we had like a little viewing party, you know, so we were watching UFC and everything. And man, the people were hyped. It was fun. Like everybody's totally cool. Everybody's just chilling, kind of just maxing out on the mat. And man, like watching the first couple fights, people were getting hyped.
It was crazy to have that many, like, because we as a group all started watching at 6. That's so unheard of.
Too,
because normally people, I'm just coming for the main, or like George would show up for the main, but you know the diehards would be at least prelims, but we wouldn't really ever fuck with the early prelims.
Nah.
But for Jim Miller and Bobby Green and fucking Cody and fucking what's his face, Figueroa, like I was like, then it goes into like Holly Holm, and then I was like, it was awesome, man. As a fight fan, to watch it as much as we do, sometimes you get lost in it because it doesn't hit, but when Max Holloway did that, we started hugging each other. It's what all of us watch every single fucking Saturday for. It's that moment that you want. I mean, Dana White summed it up perfectly in the presser, but like, I love Max Holloway. I doubted Max Holloway in that fight because Max Holloway hasn't looked like Max Holloway in a long time. And Max Holloway did such a Max Holloway thing in the fucking end. And it was just like, superstar. Yeah. Like he's...
Yeah. I heard
he's fucking awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I always liked Max Holloway too, but I doubted him as well because, you know, Gaethje's such a murderer.
Gaethje just fucking put out Dustin.
Poirier,
with a head kick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was like, whoa, I don't know, man. He's coming up weight. Like, Gaethje's got the murderous leg kicks.
Yeah, Gaethje's always like the scariest dude ever.
How did he eat them leg kicks?
Dana said in the presser that he was walking around the back just like, you know, I'm sure that adrenaline dump came down and he wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, bro, I listen, I've done a couple of MMA fights. When I got kicked in the leg really hard, in the fight, I was able to, you know, withstand. And I only got kicked like 3 or maybe 5 times total the whole fight. But like, I didn't check him. Like, I just ate him on the leg. And this was like another guy that's good, but not like, you know, Gaethje. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, where like it doesn't matter how tough your leg is, he's just gonna take it out.
Yeah.
You know, so that was insane. When he hit that, like, did you see the reaction video? Did I show you the? Bro, I'll show you more, or I have it saved because I don't want to post it up, but dude, like everyone at the school went insane.
Yeah, I feel like everyone everywhere went insane.
What else can you get that excited for? Is there anything?
That's probably the most like testosterone thing I've ever seen ever. Like I started screaming. I started grabbing my friend. He was fucking screaming.
Yeah.
And then my 2 buddies were screaming, and we didn't stop screaming.
Yeah.
And I lost my voice.
Yeah.
And the next day, my buddy texted his neighbor, because they live in a half a double, and he's like, "Hey, I'd like to apologize to you and your entire family. UFC 300 was on last night. Me and the boys went a little too far."
Yeah.
He's like, "My family didn't wake up." He said, "I was up though,
watching it."
And he goes, "I kept hearing like, you know, you guys yell," and he's like, "It was just interesting to hear like the whoa."
And the guy wasn't watching it?
No.
Oh my God.
And sometimes he comes over, but he's just out of his element.
Yeah.
And
should have just watched it though.
So he said when that happened, he almost texted my buddy Tim to be like, what's going on.
I'm coming over.
But he said everyone was just screaming, and then he said somebody just kept yelling, he fucking killed him. He fucking killed him. He fucking killed him. It was awesome. And then even afterwards, after the whole thing dumped down, and I felt like that moment was so long before the next fight. And I remember I went up to each one of my buddies and I hugged them. And I was like, this is what we watch every Saturday for. I go, it was fucking awesome. It was so, because that moment has occurred with Holloway several times, or like people always talk about doing it, but for those two to actually do it, and then with 1 second left,
I mean,
it was cool that did you see Mark Goddard?
Yeah,
was like, hey, will you release the audio? He's like, I never yelled like that my entire career.
He was like, whoa, it's over.
It was cool how the UFC handled it. They released the footage like they did when Sugar defeated Aljo, and then they started releasing more of it, and they were like, look, this was a very special night, let's share it, and like ESPN like put it up. It's just, I love that. It's been a while for it to be considered a sport. It's been a while for it to be on ESPN. I mean, it used to be on fucking Spike TV. It's come a long fucking way.
It really has.
And I've been watching the whole fucking time. And sometimes my friends who watch sports, they kind of give me shit. Like, now they can't because it's on. Yeah. But like, I remember when they used to be like, oh, it's not this. What do you think this is? And then now it's, because it used to be like, oh, McGregor, that's it. And then now it's like, I feel like more of that stuff, it like is like legitimatizes it as its own thing. Yeah. It was fucking dope.
Yeah, it was
then
crazy.
There was 2 fights after that.
I know. And you know what, man? Like this what I say though, like in sports, like and I love all sports.
Yeah.
Like I shouldn't say that. I don't love it anymore. But I did like all sports. Football, baseball, and basketball. Jordan, obviously I like the Phillies. I liked a lot of different baseball teams. The Buffalo Bills, they never won. You know what I mean? The whole thing. But I've seen other people react to like teams winning Super Bowls, and they're like, "We're winning the Super Bowl," and it's like, 42-6, and they're running out the score, whatever, and it's like, or they're like playing the timeout game at the end of the thing, or basketball, they're just waiting for the last shot, and even when they hit the last shot, it ain't that exciting. Yeah. You know what I mean? In NFL, there's really no, man, it's so tough. Unless I've been a fan of like the White Sox for like 25 years and they win in a walk-off, 2 outs, 2, 3, full count, and the guy hits us, you know what I mean? Other than that, I don't see, because that's only like your team. In this, it's like a collective, everyone who is watching, except for maybe like Gaethje's family.
Oh, did you see the reaction of his dad?
No, but
his dad,
I got scared.
Mom and dad were behind the fighters.
Did they show him?
Yeah, and like somebody had like a zoomed in thing, and his dad was just like, fuck. And you couldn't see all of it, which I preferred, but it was kind of hard to watch in a sense of like his mom and dad who are just like, would be the same as my mom and dad. Right, it's just like an older couple.
Yeah, and when someone gets KO'd like that, like even when he got knocked down, like everybody though around there,
you know who was there? Shivy's brother, Jeremy.
Jeremy was where?
At UFC 300.
Was he there? Oh, shit.
He posted something, and I texted him, and I said, how loud was that? And he goes, it was insane.
Deafening, yeah.
Yeah.
And see, that's what I mean, though, because that's like not just it's everybody around the
feeling
community.
That, dude?
Yeah, just went insane.
It was cool to see the fighters' reactions. It was cool to see Rogan's react. Like I always love the analyst reactions, but like the refs' reaction, like it was.
It was crazy.
Yeah, it was. And then what was funny is he's like, Joe Rogan, you haven't brought me up on your show in a while. It's like Max Holloway. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah. What the hell are you talking about? But yeah, I mean, I felt bad for his friends. When he when he was just laying there, I felt immediately. I was
still yelling. We were still celebrating. That had stopped, and then he was still out cold.
That's right when I saw that. But
he was out for a while.
Yeah, our reaction was so funny. Guys got up and just started running around the room and like punching things and grabbing each other, and it's like fighting is a very
the only thing that's ever come close to that, very much so.
Yeah.
The only thing that's ever come close to that is when I'm a big Izzy fan, and when he finally got his win over Pereira, and like everybody down here was kind of like we didn't think he was going to get it, but everyone was just like, we just want Izzy to get this W over him, and when he did it, we were all like, let's fucking go.
Yeah, that is cool.
It's fun. It's a dump off, man. Just a bunch of fucking. It's violence, man. I love it. I
And
love
then
everything about it.
Think about how what happens in wrestling and jiu-jitsu is the same thing. Like, you're fully invested in the guy. We're watching him when he hits a move,
Yeah.
and like a tap, and he's and everybody's going nuts. Like when Thor, like at ADCC, when Thor. So I'm out there coaching him, right, and I'm like, he's going against Rustam Chiziev, which is the matchup we spoke about before. Like, yo, that would be a sick matchup. Imagine if they put you against a Russian bear.
Yeah.
The dude who has the
I was going to say, is that the guy who's hairy?
Yeah, the full
Yeah.
back thing and everything, and he takes the shirt off and everything. And, John obviously is probably nervous as hell, I'm sure. Like, everybody's nervous before the stuff. And right when he goes out there, I'm like, oh, damn, this is going to be insane. And I look back, and that was like the biggest crowd I've ever been, like, in for jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Seeing, like, whatever, I don't even remember where we're at in that one, wherever that 2 ADCCs ago was, and there's so many people in the crowd, and like he hits him, like he taps him and just stands up, and I don't even think he knew what to do at first. Like, it was like the crowd went insane, and he was just like, "Wah!"
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? And you just see me in the background, like, like crazy, like this is insane.
It's always cool when they
Yeah.
show the coaches in the UFC too.
And in last ADCC, like when the place is so quiet, and then the guys are out there grappling, and Craig Jones is up, and someone just goes, grab his dick and twist it.
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? And they start yelling, and it's just like, it's hard to explain to people who, like, it's not their thing. But when you get involved in it, it's like, and you start watching the fights, and the guys, like even my cousin,
Yeah.
my cousin Tanner, he's like super into it now. They watch the fights. My cousin Matt, who, like, he never really trained, but he used to hang out with me all the time. Like,
Yeah.
it's basically like one of my brothers. Same thing. They get into it, and like, it just keeps hyping people up. And I really feel like, it's something to, like, besides sports, that it's really hard to discipline. Like, you could have shit fights, but it's kind of hard to disappoint. If you like a bunch of different guys,
Yeah.
it's not like, I can't wait. If the Eagles don't win this week, I'm going to be so pissed.
What's cool with fighting too, and it's how I changed. I've been watching it for a very long time. I got emotionally attached to 2 different fighters. It's hard being a Conor McGregor fan, and it's the last person that I'll be excited when he's done. It'll be the last time I ever emotionally attach myself to somebody where I was literally upset that they lost. And now what I do, and what I've learned from this is, what's the better fight after this? So, okay, well, if we got, any 2 guys, okay, well, this guy, like, say Strickland Costa.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, what happens if, even, I'm trying to think of one that was recent. It was like the Jiri one. All right, so if Jiri wins, all right, now we got Jiri back on track to be going for a fucking belt. I love watching him fight.
Yeah,
he's
he's
a weird
crazy.
samurai guy. That other guy who hasn't fought in like 10 years or whatever. And I'm like, all right, well, if he beats him, the UFC is doing nothing with this guy.
Yeah.
They're not pushing him up. He's probably just going to be dropped off and be thought, But if now the Jiri one, they're already talking about Jiri and Jamal Hill. And I'm like, so now I kind of base it off of like, all right, Strickland Costa. All right, like, where does this go? Where does this go? All right, well, Strickland's a loudmouth. Maybe he can get back on track somewhere. Costa looks like he's on his way out. So I started watching fights with like, what fight do you want to see out of that?
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
a better story out of that? What's going to be a bigger pay-per-view if somebody wins this? Like, especially if someone's close to a belt and somebody's just kind of, even like Pereira. So it's like, I like Jamal Hill, but like Pereira is so decorated
Yeah, I know,
since he came in there, and then to knock him out the way he did, it's like, well, what the fuck are you going to do with him?
Yeah.
If Jamal Hill would have won, they probably would have rematched, or like, oh, hey, this guy's coming in. So I like to watch now with like, what is a more exciting fight with who will win, and that saves me a lot of fucking a lot of bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, it really saves on having to have a favorite, and like I'm arguing with less people.
Yeah. I don't even, that's the thing. That's one of the reasons why I told you this before. Like, I don't really get attached to these guys.
Tough.
Unless I know them.
Yeah.
I really want them to win. But I realize if they lose, I'm like, all right.
Like the
You know what I mean?
Poirier fight, like
Yeah.
I don't really like Poirier because I'm a Conor fan, and like in that fight, like I want him to finally get the belt. Like, to me, I'm like, if he wins that fight, like, retire. Like, like, I've watched him from Spike TV as a fucking shaved head kid all the way up to selling hot sauce and, like, being the fucking man. And, like, he just fucking knocked that dude out who they basically brought in to retire him. Like, I like seeing that behind the scenes shit. Like, the UFC's trying to get him out. Because every once in a while, they'll be like I feel like Strickland's on that chopping block. Like, he's been annoying and stupid with the UFC. They're going to send somebody to murder him soon.
Yeah,
so, like,
they always do that. Anytime Dana doesn't like you or you piss the UFC off.
Yeah, you got like rat lip coming for
I always bring up Tito Ortiz.
Yeah,
when he pissed them off, bro, because for
Woodley
a
was
while
the same. As soon as Woodley lost that belt, goodbye.
They were giving him Ken Shamrock a bunch of times, remember? And he was easily winning those fights because Ken Shamrock's out of his mind. But then eventually, when he did like his rerun with the UFC, he and Dana, like, you know, maybe it was contract or like Dana originally used to manage Tito Ortiz.
Yeah, he publicly talks about this kind of shit and
he
talks
hates
about how
Tito Ortiz,
stupid he is.
Yeah, he's like, Tito Ortiz is one of the dumbest fucking guys of all time.
And he's like, and he'll tell you he is.
and it was Tito Ortiz went against Rampage Jackson, Vanderlei Silva, Lyoto Machida,
Chuck Liddell.
Chuck Liddell. They were
Chuck
just
Liddell
like
multiple times.
Yeah, Randy
he would lose
Couture.
And they'd be like, run it back.
Yeah, run it. Yeah, they're just like, hey, give him Machida. You know what I mean? And he did really good in some of those fights, but some of them he got wrecked. You know?
Yeah, there was like he went on like because when the UFC was like MMA and wasn't like that era, and you know, like Liddell had already retired, and Tito probably had fights on his contract, and they were just like trying to give like, you know, and then he finally beat Ryan Bader, and like celebrated, like, you know, very similar to Weidman, eye poking the shit out of somebody and then being like, I fucking did it.
Yeah, that was weird.
I don't like that. I'm out on Aljo. I'm out on Weidman. I don't like any. The only person I like over there is Matt Serra.
Yeah, Matt Serra's classic. You don't like the NYC crew?
Not at all.
They're kind of weird. You know
Not
what I
at
mean?
all.
We've been since I've been a kid. Like,
I don't like Marab.
Yeah.
I don't like Aljo. Aljo was the worst thing on UFC 300.
Yeah. Since
Bo Nickel looked better.
Since I've been on the East Coast, those guys are on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So all the years coming up with Tiger Schulman's, we'd always be going against Ray Longo. And it used to be years ago with Sarah Longo.
Podcast.
Yeah, Longo and Sarah are great, but the New York guys, like, even so, they used to even
I feel like
the
they
New
don't
York.
feel like New York.
Yeah, it's a weird New York style.
They're like
guy,
from
yeah.
LA and then they're in New York.
They used to not like us because we were from Pennsylvania. So not only I would get we don't like you because you're from Tiger Schulman's, and then Tiger Schulman's guys would be like, we don't like you because you're from Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So took me a while to break in with those dudes, but they call us Pennsyltucky.
Yeah,
the PA boys are coming through again. Yeah. You know what I mean, chewing on straw.
Get your big ups.
Yeah, I'd be like, all right. And then
it's a tough thing to break.
We had to go earn your respect from these guys. But then, I became friends with a whole bunch of guys from Tiger Schulman's, like Mike Stein and the Johnson brothers and all the guys, Shannon Maceo, and guys that are, New York, Long Island dudes. But they would always have to battle them. All my first kickboxing fights were in Matt Serra Longo's old gym.
Yeah.
And Matt Serra, he's always been, he's
the best on those roads. They started bringing
the
the fighters on Rogan's thing, and they're like trying to make a name for it, like Protect Our Parks, but it's like MMA guys. And Matt Serra, I listen to that dude. I keep forgetting he has that show on XM with Jim Norton.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Jim Norton guy.
Yeah, he's
anymore.
Weird.
I kind of like got off him for a while. I started hearing some weird shit about him.
No, he's weird as fuck, man.
Jimmy Norton.
He's been talking about it for a while. Now he's married to it. So
little Jimmy Norton.
Jimmy Norton,
what's
all
up?
Grown up.
Dude, that guy's a fucking idiot. Dude.
Yeah,
that guy is stupid.
I saw him live a lot. I used to be into a lot of his stuff and Chip Chipperson, and then I just kind of got burned out on it.
Yeah, he was
same. I'm like that with a lot of comics. I'm trying not to do that with Shane Gillis. Like, I'm kind of out on like Burt Kreischer and Tom Segura.
Yeah, no, I'm done with those guys.
Yeah.
You know what though? Here's the thing. Like, and this is not a popular opinion, but I never really liked those guys.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like the first group of dudes that Joe Rogan tried to bring in and it's kind of like weird.
That's what Cat Williams was saying.
What?
When he was on that Club Shay Shay podcast when it like blew the fuck up
with Sterling Sharp or Shannon Sharp.
Yeah. So like when he was like Joe Rogan and his 6 unfunny friends.
Yeah.
I think he was taking a shot at like those guys that used to come on with him. Like
I think he was. Well, I don't like Burt and Tom. Those guys always sucked.
I like Tom from his early stuff when he did the his stand up where he did the whole thing about bikes. Like one of his early stand up is like one of my favorites. And then so like I always liked him, but then like he like got money and like tried to put on this persona of like bougie and thought it would be funny, and then he just came off as a fucking dick.
Yeah.
And then Kreischer just ruined that movie. Was so bad.
I didn't watch it, honestly.
You save yourself anytime.
Yeah,
I don't think I
thought-
finished it.
See, I think with those guys, like I was already, so I like Joe Rogan because I knew him from 10th Planet.
Yeah.
Because of Eddie Bravo is like really good friends. So like I liked Eddie Bravo.
Yeah.
And I always thought that those dudes, when Eddie was on, I always thought that those kind of guys talked down to Eddie or they didn't like him. So I was always like,
I can see that.
I was always like, because like imagine like, you know, when you have a guy like he's a famous dude and he's got a bunch of friends and these are his jiu-jitsu friends, guys that he knows from fighting. And then these are his comedy guys. And like Joe's big on comedy. So like, you know, he's got all these comedy dudes and they're all his boys and they're funny. But then also too, the jiu-jitsu guys could break these guys' necks if they want to. But they got to kind of put up with them, especially like if they're all trying to. And Eddie and Joe were friends before.
It's
he was
weird.
famous.
They try and like
You know
bring
what I mean?
bring back like I like Eddie on there. I've always liked Eddie on there.
Yeah.
I prefer Eddie with the one-on-one. I just think there's just interesting topics that come up because those guys have been friends for so long. But when then they throw Callan and Schaub and like, I feel like Schaub and Callan like have gone through so much weird stuff and have been around so much dirty stuff. Or even Eddie's just like, what are you two doing?
I know it's kind of tough.
The last time they got like for a fight companion, I was like, I can't listen to this anymore.
didn't
But I
watch
always
it.
loved Eddie Bravo on stuff.
Yeah,
he doesn't
no.
come on enough.
Yeah, I think Eddie kills it. And he's funny and he's got like there was like some really good like Eddie clip ones where there would be like when he was talking about when Schaub was like have you seen his documentary? Because he would always say that like, oh, have you seen his documentary? But like obviously I'm friends with Eddie and I'm ranked on him, so like when I talk to him like or when I would see him and we would get together and he would just be telling stories, it's like he's right a lot of the shit. I mean, obviously flat earth, some people aren't going to like that when he talks about it, but I think he's hilarious to have on, and it's some of the ones that have the most views or listens to when he's on it. I think he was like one of the #1 guests too.
Yeah.
I don't like Schaub, obviously.
No.
You know what I mean? And I don't like Brian Callen anymore, but there is
when they cried that Chris D'Elia got canceled.
That was so stupid.
I was like out on them.
I like D'Elia back in the day too, and it was always so funny. Brian Callen, I will say this: Callen was funny though. He
for sure.
always
I
knows,
feel like he got in his own head, and like he's not the same anymore.
No, but he used to know how to set up D'Elia all the time. Like where he would like
that version
fall,
of all that stuff. You know, Callum was so good at setting up comics and like doing all that stuff, and it's just not the same anymore.
You ever see the one when they're arguing about whether because he was in Batman and they're pulling up the thing? He's like, I was a Joker. And he's like, you were not the Joker. He's like, there I am. He's like, Brian Callen is in Joker. He's like, it doesn't say you're in It was like that kind of stuff was funny because they're having, it's like some people think it's like a real interaction, but they're like that's like a bit they're doing. Even though they may not have known they were going to do that bit, Callen is setting them up. Like he would always set them up, you know. So they always had funny ones, but then those guys just got a little famous and got super weird, man.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I can't say they've been super weird because I know my one buddy, Chris D'Elia, hit on his wife before, I want to say 20 years ago. He was that kind of a dude. Like he was still obviously.
For sure, he's that kind of a dude. There's dudes out there that don't have podcasts and are doing what he's doing. They just ain't getting fucking caught.
Yeah, it's true. But yeah, how about last thing? And I know we gotta get going, but how about all the Diddy stuff, dude?
The Diddy stuff's crazy.
I'm balls deep in it.
It followed 50 Cent.
No
50
Diddy?
Cent posted today, or did you send that to me? Somebody sent it to me that supposedly Diddy fucked
I saw
Urkel's dad.
What the hell is that?
Yeah.
And
I love rap culture right now.
Yeah,
They're just
me
like
too.
running each other over, and like
they should be.
People are just like, I remember who was talking about they went on a podcast and they were like, I opened the door and then there's Will Smith getting murdered over a couch, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, dude, the guys, dude, it's getting wild now in rap. Rap is getting wild. They're like exposing like weird gay sexual stuff that they've done.
D'Elia's probably just like, phew, finally somebody else can call the diddler.
Someone take the heat off me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone posted
He's
a meme
doing his
too.
rounds though.
Yeah. yeah. Someone posted a meme saying it was like Diddy like on a bike, and then 50 Cent commented under it and said, "You know there ain't no seat on that bike." And then someone commented
Oh yeah,
like,
because they were saying that like somebody saw Diddy riding his bike. Cause
Yeah,
no
yeah.
one like. What's also crazy is like
He's
it
still
just kind of
around.
went. It just went into the
Yeah.
ether. Like no one knows if he actually left the country.
"No, he's in America."
Yeah,
yeah.
So
yeah.
like, I don't think he actually left. Or somebody said that.
no,
like,
his plane with a bunch of shit on it flew out.
Yeah.
So who knows what was on that plane?
Well, somebody else said like they were on their way to spring break anyways, and like the timeline would have been like they would have been going with like his daughters or whatever to spring break.
Yeah.
But
I don't think he's fleeing. I just think he's stuck here now, and we're gonna see what happens. But
I don't know. It's been too quiet. I mean, the memes and everything's going on, but
Yeah.
like nobody's. There's nothing real.
But you know what though? Nothing real yet. But you got to also remember that they did it a little bit backwards. Because
No, I think everything that he's being accused of is true.
Probably,
like
yeah.
he's just a monster, like just some weird pervert who got a lot of money, and then like. I feel like when you can start doing stuff like that, you start getting bored. And what else can we do?
Right, exactly, and that's what I was trying to explain. Like when I forget who it, maybe it was my wife was like asking me like, but I don't understand. Like, why would he start doing that? And I'd be like, babe, I guess what it is when you have that much money, and let's say you've slept with a billion
Yeah, like
women,
look at Vince McMahon, all
What
that
the
weird
hell?
shit that he's did.
crapping on people
Yeah,
and stuff. Like,
and then what's his face did that too from
R. Kelly.
No, he peed.
Yeah.
With the poo poo was the dude John McAfee from the fucking McAfee antivirus.
Oh right, yeah, but okay, McAfee was kind of out of his mind though.
But
Like,
I'm just saying he's shitting through a
That's
hammock
true.
on chicks. Like,
Yeah.
I guess when you reach a level of ultimate power and you can just start paying people to do shit, you know,
they
I
just
don't
get
know.
bored or something. But like, I guess I would seem like I would like what I don't think I.
And
would,
then all that like
Yeah.
Justin, like what's crazy is I know a lot of it's fake. And I also know that there's a lot of it that's real, and you got to kind of get through the bullshit. But like, there's some weird ass clips of like Diddy with younger people. Like,
Yeah.
like to me, I'm like, oh well, this would explain Justin Bieber's weird, like just how he carries himself, or like those old clips where like Ellen's fucking touching Bieber, or like
Yeah.
you know, or like Diddy's got him backstage, and he's just like, oh, I'm gonna be alone with Justin for a while, just us, and he's just like,
Yeah.
like
Well,
it's fucking crazy.
yeah, I know, and he's like all
Where
uncomfortable.
are her parents?
They're counting money somewhere. You know what I mean, on a yacht.
That's what that whole Nickelodeon thing was.
Yeah,
None of those parents
another
gave a
thing,
fuck.
dude. Disney and shit. Like,
Yeah.
how disgusting these people. But it's pretty wild. But yeah, I mean, Mike Ortiz. Shout out to Mike Ortiz. He told me about this. He's running classes at Finishers North. He's running classes at Finishers HQ. He's
Yeah.
coaching guys. Like, I love seeing evolution. I don't even know half the time. They're just hitting me up like, "Yo, where's the tape? We need tape for the fighters." I'm like, "Oh shit, I don't even know where it's at." Trying to keep up. But Mike told me 15 years ago, he told me there's a big conspiracy in rap music about like making the rappers do
Yeah.
weird sexual
Yeah.
stuff in front of other people, so that way it's exactly like Epstein and Diddy.
Yeah, you got
and Birdman.
You're like blackmailing people
Yeah,
and shit.
Birdman, and
Yeah.
like they would say what they did to Lil Wayne, like making him like hook up with like prostitutes in front of
Yeah,
everybody.
when he was like 13 or something.
Yeah, real young, and like, dude, like there were like he sent me all types of weird clips of guys saying like, you know, I had to do this for the deal.
It's a
and-
weird stuff
yeah.
with like the Hollywood stuff that Cat Williams got into
Yeah.
about like getting fucking blown by producers or
Yeah.
like having to wear a dress, and I think Kevin
dress
Hart
thing
and
is, yeah.
him like got into a fight when they like recently in Philly, like their fucking entourages.
Yeah.
I think like Kevin Hart got the shit
Well,
kicked out
Kevin
of him.
Hart's probably pissed. I mean, Cat Williams. I mean,
He went on
yeah,
like it was that was a
classic
firing
podcast.
squad.
That was a classic.
I
podcast.
loved the Rogan
Yeah,
one.
me
I
too.
thought it was cool. It was
Yeah.
what was interesting was seeing somebody like stump Rogan or like somebody like Rogan was at like full attention with him.
Yeah.
and it was somebody. I mean, obviously some of the stuff Kat said was really wild, but like they were so fucking high.
Yeah.
and then like I was like, oh, I forgot, like, because that podcast to me was early Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
it's why
I
everyone
loved
loved
it.
Joe
Yeah,
Rogan.
yeah.
It was somebody like they were both fucking high, just
Yeah,
having
he's
a
like-
stone conversation. It wasn't just calling it in because you had 3 others to do today, or you
Yeah.
had something to do after it, or you're going to blow a Tesla with a fucking bow and arrow.
Yeah.
Like I loved that. I loved every minute of it. I thought it was really fucking cool.
I'm gonna go back and listen. To that
Yeah, there
again,
was
I
like
think.
there was stuff where he was like stumped and like didn't know what to say, and he was like and I'm like, Rogan never
Yeah.
talks like that.
Yeah, and then Jamie would look it up, and then he'd be like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, Cat Williams is a fucking badass.
and he'd just
man.
be like, Joe, you think I'm lying to you?
Yeah, and he's just barbecued. Then he's like playing race simulators afterwards.
Yeah. Cat Williams,
Yeah.
the man.
There's
yeah,
still
that,
some cool shit on
That
Rogan.
Shannon Sharp one was
Club
next
Shay
level,
Shay.
yeah. That was next
Yeah.
level. And like Shannon Sharp is like be choking on his whiskey. He's like,
Yeah,
"No,
he's
oh."
just like, oh my god. Then you just see the numbers count up. He burned everybody to the ground.
Yeah.
I loved when he started shitting all over the Kangs at comedy.
Yeah, fuck those
Yeah.
guys.
I didn't like any of that. I like Bernie Mac. That
Yeah,
was
Bernie
it.
Mac is the only
Yeah.
one, the only guy that's not
I never
around.
liked Steve Harvey and
No.
all his stupid
Although
stuff.
I will one thing, I thought those guys sucked. Cedric the Entertainer, he sucked.
Oh, the
Bernie Mac.
worst. Bernie Mac was so good.
Oh my God, he was
The
hilarious.
show was good.
Yeah, he'd be like, by the time he's like, I'll beat your kids. Remember that when he's talking about beating the kids?
yeah.
My dad loved that bit too. He would always bring that up. He's like, by the time I think a kid is 6, I think you can hit him in the neck. Remember he said that shit? Dude, he was so
Bernie
funny.
Mac
Yeah.
was a fucking man.
And that was the only guy that Cat Williams liked, obviously.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
The rest
yeah.
of them were jerk offs.
It was
but
fun listening to that,
but,
and then having him do Rogan afterwards.
Steve Harvey actually does have a pretty good backstory. Like I think he had some people that really helped him.
Yeah.
That was like some family
Yeah.
took him in and really helped
Oh
him
yeah,
out.
yeah.
And then he went back and like gave them a whole bunch of money
Yep.
or something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So he's got a really good story, which is I'm glad he helped those people out, but also stole jokes from all those
He was
guys,
never
you know
my
what I
cup
mean?
of tea.
Nah, me neither. I liked I did like Bernie Mac, and then just like how I didn't like Jimmy Norton and like Opie and Anthony, like they were okay. I never really liked them. I was always in Howard Stern, which is
I was always
shameful now.
pro O&A.
Yeah, but I did like what's his name though,
Patrice, yeah.
I mean, dude.
He would be the greatest right now.
Oh yeah, dude. If you want to go back,
It'd
go
be like,
on.
he'd be like
yeah.
the Tim Dillon.
Yeah,
you know what I
exactly.
mean?
But Tim
Doing a
Dillon,
solo
he kind of
podcast.
annoyed me as well, though. Tim Dillon now, like he kind of pissed me off a little bit. But that's kind of what happens when you get a lot of money. But if you look at if you're bored, guys, go on and search Tim Dillon or not Tim Dillon, Patrice O'Neill conspiracies, and like you want to talk about. Like Alex Jones type shit.
Yeah.
Before this is, dude. And when was that? How many years ago?
XM and Sirius weren't combined.
He's talking about it. Like the shit that's going on now, Patrice O'Neill is talking about.
Yeah.
Like Russia
he
and
was
all
so
types of
good.
stuff, dude.
He was so good.
He was nailing it, yeah. And then remember freaking I don't know why I hit that Sirius and XM, dude. I remember I
used
had a
to do the
Hyundai XM.
walkover.
I got the they walk over to the other studio.
Yeah.
I had the big like one that came out because like when they were like Howard Stern's gonna be off, I'm like I'm not missing Stern.
Yeah.
I'm like I need it.
I had the boom box. I just threw it out the other day. I should have taken pictures of some of this stuff, but I you know when you move and you're just always moving. Every
Yeah.
time I moved, it was never like this time is like very planned and thought
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
I have stuff taken down after Friday. The studio's coming down, but like, when I was doing it, I had the receiver for XM that would go. You would put it in your car, and then the magnetic
And the
XM
boom
thing
box.
up top.
Yep.
And then I had the boom box where you'd pull it out, move it over
Oh, the
there.
magnetic thing.
Yeah,
I
because
forgot about
you would
that.
bring the antenna with you.
Yeah.
And I remember it looked like an X was the boom box, and I would take it to work, and I would try and get a signal, and I'd be like, dude, I'm paying like $19 a month for XM, and I'd be like, at some job I fucking hate, and all you would hear is boo, and then it would be like this long intro, and I'd be like, Opie and Anthony are here, Jim Norton's on, they're just gonna fuck with people all day.
Yeah, that kept us, bro. That
yeah.
kept us alive.
Sanity.
Doing
Sanity.
work.
Dude, they were on 94.1. I remember I get out of Martin Guitar, and Josh was like, you got to start listening to this show afterwards. He was so far ahead of the curve with listening to talk radio. He listened to sports radio a lot. So did
I, yeah.
So like it just kind of transitioned before podcasts. And like I remember listening to a 4-hour. I would come home, turn on my stereo, and I'd sit in my room for 4 hours. My parents didn't even know what to do.
Yeah.
They're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just listening to radio.
Yeah, so we would listen to Howard Stern on the way down.
Yeah.
Like to train in the morning or to work. You'd
Yeah.
be listening to it. And then when the serious stuff started, I would listen to O&A too, but then we would listen to that like throughout the whole day at
Yeah,
the
because you
shop.
could get the replays then.
So then they would be playing it. I'd be up at like, I'm working till 5 at the GNS shop, and it'd be like 2:30 on a Thursday or Friday, and everybody already left, so nothing's going on. So I'd just be like, go out outside, smoke a bowl behind the dumpster, and then come in and
Yep.
just sit in there and listen to the wrap-up show or something.
Yeah, it was
You know
cool.
what I mean?
Because they'd be on in the morning, and then they would just play the replay right after. So they'd be like on from like 9 to 2, and then from 2 to 4 or whatever, like the fuck it was. And
Remember,
it was awesome.
What
man.
about Bubba the Love Sponge?
I never got into Bubba, but
Me
I always
neither.
they would always like cross over
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
show and shit.
Dude,
And then like
that-
he recorded Hogan fucking.
I know. Yeah, what the hell? Didn't he lost a lot of money from that, right?
Yeah, he got sued. Like they apparently they were best friends. I don't
Hogan
know.
was broke, and then he got all his money back again. Because didn't his son like kill someone in a car accident or some crazy thing?
Yeah, his son was
Drunk and
street racing and lost control of like a Dodge Viper.
didn't his daughter? What happened to Brooke Hogan? Wasn't she like rapping with like Paul Wall? and
Yeah,
stuff like that?
I think she like saw kind of how crazy the family was, and then just like went over here.
I'm out.
But the son did kill someone. He hit somebody. They were street racing, and then because he was Hulk Hogan's son, he did like the minimal amount of time you would do. I mean, anyone else would be in prison the rest of their life.
I am a real man.
There was footage recently, and this is what shows you with shit like that is the son got arrested for a DUI, and Hogan showed up and was like, "What can we do here?
Oh, I saw that.
What can
Yeah,
we
yeah.
do here, brother? Come on, brother. You want an autograph?
We're gonna have to leg
And they're
drop
like,
this
"No,
guy."
it's called a body cam, and this
Yeah.
is gonna go on the internet, and there's nothing we can do.
Yeah.
You're fucked."
Yeah, every time they always argue about the cops thing, I'm like, dude, they're recording everything.
Yeah, that was like a classic example of like them trying to like make money off their kids. The daughter wasn't a talented singer and didn't want to do that, but
Yeah,
they
no.
wanted her to do
Right,
that.
exactly,
And
yeah.
then the son they were pushing as like it would be like as if your parents like if you were just like, "Hey, I want to fucking fly helicopters," and your parents had a bunch of money and they're like, "Here's a helicopter, try it." Because in the show, because that was like back when
kinda
like,
remember that, yeah.
VH1 was running like terrible fucking television, and I would watch that show because the daughter's tits would be out sometimes, and they tried making the son into a race car driver.
Yeah.
They gave him a shot and were like, make it around the track, and he totaled the fucking car.
Yeah, I
and then
know,
like
yeah.
6 months later, he kills someone in a fucking car accident.
Yeah, I remember Hulk Hogan was even talking about how during that show he like wanted to break up with like him and his wife were like not talking.
Oh,
Yeah,
all
it
of
was
those
crazy.
shows,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
season 2's like they're divorced.
Yeah. Remember what was the other one? Anna Nicole Smith had a show. Didn't she have a show?
She might have.
Was it Anna Nicole Smith or she was the guy? She was the girl that had the really big boobs. She was married to the old guy.
The guy
right?
was like dead.
Yeah.
He's like the fucking dude from
Weekend at Bernie's.
yeah, I was gonna say from what's Breaking Bad, where he's like ding 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 ding
Oh,
ding,
yeah,
ding. Just some old dude in an oxygen tank.
Dude, that was sad. the
That
way
was
those
great
shows were, yeah.
TV.
It was kind of
great
crazy.
fucking
Nowadays,
TV.
I don't even know
Celebrity
what's on TV.
Rehab.
Yeah.
VH1 was just like, let's get all these fucking people together. What
And
was
let
the
'em
one where
fight.
Vern Troyer was like pissing, fucking blacked out on the side of
Yeah,
the house?
There's actually another. I was just saw a thing on there was like an old show. Speaking of Dr. Phil, there was like an old Dr. Phil show where he tried to set up a thing where he put in like a really overweight person with like a person who hates fat people, and then like
That's all
just,
how
like,
those shows
a
are built.
bunch
The
of-
real world is like you would like sit down with a psychologist, and then they took
Yeah.
people who couldn't fucking live together and put them in the same fucking room.
That's
the old
exactly-
stuff was
yeah.
wild. That Irish guy was like punching people.
Yeah.
They're like Dominic's drunk again. He's like blah.
well, the Real World Road Rules. I mean, they had
Those
some-
were always
yeah.
a blast. I like
I
those.
can't remember the one
Yeah.
guy's name. Was it CJ?
Yeah.
Yeah, remember
He's
him?
still
Yeah.
going. There's like some I just saw a commercial where it's like they're still doing like they're bringing back like the challenge.
Wait,
and, like,
CJ is back?
Yeah,
No
yeah,
way. What is
yeah.
that guy up to in real life?
they made a lot of money off like those guys who were like him and the Miz before
Yeah,
the Miz
The
went
Miz,
off
yeah,
to
yeah.
wrestling. Like those guys
Well,
were,
Theo
were
Von was
winning.
on it,
Yeah,
huh?
they were winning all that stuff. So was fucking Tom Segura's wife.
She was on it?
Yeah, she was on one of the Road Rules.
Because, like, dude, the one.
I liked
remember,
Road Rules. It was a good
yeah,
show.
I remembered the one, like, he was already a wild maniac and he got booted off the one show, and it was like 3 seasons later.
There's always the dude with anger issues.
Yeah, and they're like, the return of CJ.
Yeah.
And then he like came back, and I forget where they were, but he like came back and he just got into, he immediately showed up drunk, was wasted, took his shirt off, punched a guy, and was running, chasing people around, like trying to fight.
They're like, hey, CJ's gone. Like the next thing is like they just show like a spilt beer bottle and then like an interview with like a girl crying, and then another interview with another girl crying who was like, I'm in love with CJ. And then like they just you knew the shit hit the fan when there was like a producer there with like whatever BMXers hosting it, and then they're
Travis
like,
Pastrana.
or Dave Mira. So then like he's standing there and they're like, sorry guys, it clearly, and he's got like the headset on, and they're like, it clearly states that no one can touch anyone, and CJ punched 9 people and a seagull last night, so we got to wrap up.
He threw a bottle, almost killed one of the camera guys. Like, he's got to go.
I forgot how good those shows were, man. It was before fucking phones and all that bullshit.
I know,
man.
they were probably like, listen, CJ,
you know how like you just watch 3 seconds of horse shit? VH1 was a 45 minutes of that with commercials.
I know. And then same with when it went to when it changed over to what are all the Italian guys?
The Jersey Shore.
Jersey Shore, when Ronnie,
they still bring that back. I can't get myself to watch it, but like
no.
They brought that back, and like they did like a family vacation thing. It's funny seeing the old clips. It's funny seeing the old clips.
Yeah.
There was I might have sent it to you. There's an old clip of Snooki's cleaning the house, and Mike goes walking by, and you know it's out of context, and like up top it says when you see one of your best friends, but like Snooki's there and Mike goes walking by and she just looks up and just goes, faggot. And I was like, yo, this is so long ago.
Dude.
That aired on fucking MTV.
That was on TV.
Yeah.
And they were crazy, bro. I remember the one guy, Ronnie, he would just punch everybody
they'll
up.
like cut to a clip and she'll be like, oh yeah, Mike's gay.
Yeah.
And like I remember like she was saying that in like confessionals just to like make him look bad. It was like a thing on the show.
He's not gay though, right?
No, it was just her
sorry.
like being an asshole.
I mean, if he was, whatever. I mean, I just thought that would be funny if he actually was.
Yeah. She's like, hey, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Ronnie was fucking crazy.
Oh, he used to just annihilate people.
He used to black out. Pauly D was on a couple of podcasts because I feel like he's the only one who like kept the career going as a DJ and makes like massive amounts of money. And they were like asking him, and he's like, dude, it was crazy. He's like, we would just go out and fuck girls and come back, and like these people are fighting, and he's like, I was just drunk every night.
Yeah,
and he was like
night.
10 times older than everyone too.
He was older.
He was like
than
the oldest guy on the fucking in the group.
Well, that's why he had the weird hair
chill.
blowout, but he was also
just very just like I'm here. I'm used because he was DJing at the time, or was like the only reason he agreed to the show was that he thought he would be able to get more people to come out to his shows.
Yeah, I mean that's why the one dude, like he's a jiu-jitsu guy, but he did the one. My wife will watch it sometimes. It's like a Love Is Blind, I think.
Yeah.
He did that just because he figured, hey, I mean, it's
exposure.
Netflix is paying me, and I'm on a show. So.
It's exposure.
Yeah. Well, man, this has been crazy, bro. Like, thanks for always having me down here and stuff.
Of course,
and
dude.
The squad. We've done a lot with it, I feel, and I think I've been able to promote a lot. I mean, it's been huge for me. Makes me look professional. I think a lot of people have copied our shit, which is cool.
Yep. Definitely not doing it anymore, but they definitely copied it.
Yeah. But I mean, at least it was like, you know, they were always envy of us, and, you know, you having the spot and everything and being able to do this has been huge for me. So I just want to say thank you.
Of course, dude.
And it's not, obviously it's not over. I mean, some people get upset a lot. You know how it is. People hate change. They don't want anything to change. They want things to be like it always is. And it's just, if there's only one thing that we can rely on that's constant, and it is change. Things are going to change, and you evolve, and you shed your skin, and you move to the next thing. And it's not that I'm doing exactly the same thing, but you're just taking your creativity to the next thing or to the next level.
It's been cool to, you know, when I started this, I didn't know how to create an audience. I didn't know how to do anything. And then when, you know, when we started working together, that was the first time I was ever to take two things and completely cross them over. Where I remember you being like, yo, dude, people are coming to the school because of the show. Or like, hey, people from Nazareth are now coming to the podcast. And then I remember like the guys from the school started fucking with the show and like buying apparel and then like showing up the pop-ups and all that shit. It was so much learning, and it was really cool to have two things completely just cross over and the audiences were coexisting, which is extremely difficult to do, and is probably one of the hardest things that you could do, putting somebody else on a platform. And the fact that we were able to do it was really fucking cool. You know, sitting down here and doing this, and while we're talking, I'm like, oh man, I really don't want to stop doing this. So we've talked before about figuring out how to even podcast every so often. So I mean, there'll definitely be content coming out.
Yeah, and
There's so many shows we talked about with food and other things that we didn't even get to do.
Yeah, I know. And you know what? We still got plenty of time. So, and we're going to set up a little spot over at the gym so that way we can get some interviews with people, and not really like long form podcasts, but just basically cut reels, ask people questions, go on, be able to talk about stuff. We could have reviewed the fights right after they happened if it was right at the gym. So got a lot of ideas, and I never say it's like the end. It's just
I stopped doing that. Everyone's always like, well, what's going on with the show? And I'm like, well, I'm going to take a break and run this restaurant that I just dumped my life savings into.
Yeah.
So I'll pay attention to that for a little bit. And then if I don't lose all of my money, then maybe I'll bring this thing back that doesn't make us any money.
Yeah. And it just like works as a promotional tool. I always, all the money we ever spend on it, I just chalk up to advertising. So but yeah, man, it's been awesome, and the studio is super dope, and it'll be cool, and it's just like all the other gyms that I've had.
I can't wait to make another one, man. Like I said, like this is my Jimmy John's, and when you see what I'm gonna do next, it's gonna be what the fuck Bethlehem is, man.
HQ,
a fucking fantasy factory.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, we got all types of shit going here.
The fact that I'm even talking to you about it, I'm like, what we might do might grow into a fucking bakery, which means that we're probably gonna be in a warehouse, which means that we're probably not gonna use all the warehouse. So like, we could probably build something else off to the side.
Yeah, and then who knows?
I ain't living in this place ever again.
Yeah, no.
I'm definitely done living like that.
Yeah, and then who knows? Maybe one day you just, be like, hey, look, I'm going to rent an office space and just put a podcast room in it.
Or
that's
buy a garage.
Yeah, exactly. You never know. I mean, I didn't think if 5 years ago, if you would have said, are you going to open up a place in Stroudsburg? I would have said probably not. You know what I mean? But
I love the Stroudsburg part.
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen.
I see those garage doors open. I'm like, that's a fucking. As soon as you sent me the, like, I saw that before. You weren't even like, you were just looking at it, and I was like, I remember like audio texting you and sending you all this shit, and I'm like, bro, the vibes of that place with opening up the fucking garage doors, I'm like,
people are ready.
That's a fucking dope vibe. It's so different than Bethlehem, and but you also got to figure too is there's so many people that probably don't want to drive all the way to fucking Bethlehem from all the way up there. But then you said people were driving from Bethlehem up there for a smaller class.
Right, yeah. That happened.
Fucking dope.
I'm like, okay.
That's dope.
You know what I mean? Jules is like, yeah, these guys showed up Friday. They trained at the Bethlehem school. And I'm like, really? Why'd they come up here? And he's like, well, they said they'd take the 20-minute drive because they feel like it's more like a private lesson up here. It's almost like not a bougie place because it's not like in a nice place. It's like a little, I mean, I'm teaching, like I said, I'll go from one day teaching 30 people to go to another day teaching 4. And it ain't no skin off my back because that's what I do, son. I'm out here teaching jiu-jitsu. I'm hustling. I'm grinding, no cap on God. We're doing it live, baby. You know what I mean? So I'm not stopping. We're just going to, never... you know what I mean? I never give up. I just change the hustle. So we'll see what happens next.
Cheers.
To the next chapter. But cheers, my guy.
Yeah, dog.
Listening to.
Thanks for bringing the whiskey.
Yeah, no problem, man. Well, actually, I brought the ginger ale. You brought the
Thank you for bringing. I haven't had ginger ale in a while. It was on the street.
There you go. So thank you again. Shout out to you. Never Again Studios, Never Again Radio. Big Uncle Zach. I don't even know what I'm promoting anymore. Let's go. Peace.
Never Again Radio. Get into it, brother.